start our recording, we'll pull up what we're going to do today. Same thing we do every day, Pinky. Try and take over the world. Okay. What was that? You always wondered what? Who's Pinky? It's from an old TV show when I was a kid called The Animaniacs. They had a little show on there called Pinky and the Brain. And they would try and take over the world every episode. It's cool. We watched an episode last year. We might watch an episode at the very end of the year this year. Maybe. If I feel like you deserve it. Okay, so what we're going to do today, really quickly, we are going to talk about ancient Egypt, like I said. I'm going to try and find out what you know about ancient Egypt already. What do you know? Is there some little piece of information that you do know or don't know? I have specific questions to ask you, so I want to find out from that what it is that you do and don't know. Okay? So I'm going to ask you some specific things and find out. I also really kind of want to get into what knowledge you have about the geography of Egypt, especially ancient Egypt, because it is very important and to understand the culture and the way things that went or the way things that go on in that part of the world. So we're talking a little bit about geography today. So you guys have to pretend to be 6th graders again for a few minutes. Talk about geography. I know it's horrible. And then we're going to talk, maybe, if we get this far, we haven't gotten this far yet, talk about some of the inventions and accomplishments of the ancient Egyptians. If we don't get to this now, it is something we will revisit once we start actually talking about Egypt. So, with that being said, alright, we have a little game. A little geography, quick game. Basically, what you need to do is you need to walk up there. See where the little red arrow is pointing and says start? You're going to walk up, you're going to tap the start button. It's going to start a little timer, and in this little bar up here on top, it's going to ask you a question. It's going to ask you to point to a certain part of the world. Your job is to point to the right part of the world. You just tap the board where the right part of the world is, wherever it's asking you for. Okay. Alright? There is a high score on here in all 3 classes so far. Well, in my first 2 classes, nobody's beat the high score. Nobody's like 1056 or something like that. 1053. Okay. That's the high score. Nobody's beat the high score. Anybody think they can beat the high score?
Yeah.
Alright,
If we get a question right.
come on up.
Oh. Yeah, how many points is a question?
It's not a question. It's a test of 2 things. Accuracy and speed. How quickly can you read the question and identify what it's talking about, and then click the right spot. Alright, hit start whenever you're ready. Where's the screen?
Answer the questions. Faster, Kyle. Come on, just faster.
That's not bad. CC, give it a shot.
No, you should go.
Just go ahead and hit reset. Hit reset and then go.
I'm not sure what Asian big like this, right? Or
hit reset. Alright? And then hit start again.
Hurry up. Faster. Same thing over and over again. 1 seconds.
Yeah. 9:21. Not bad. Not bad.
Wait, did anyone get
Yeah. What else are we going to have going?
Why don't we let someone get Egypt?
Man, go.
You were cheering for me.
We're
Hit
so
reset
good.
and then hit start. Reset and then start. You ready? Come on. Reset and then start.
What is it supposed to mean? Faster. I should know this by now.
Nine, 12. Spencer, go get it.
Ooh, Spencer! Spencer! So what? Go faster. Oh, come on!
I think the highest score so far that I've seen is like 963. Jordan, can you beat that?
Ridiculous.
Get it.
I have to.
After Jordan, we'll have 2 more goes.
Yeah, after someone plays Egypt, then I was like, I don't know where it is. Oh.
TJ.
I'm gonna fail. I don't know where Egypt is.
Dude, it's in the same spot. It depends on how close you get, how fast, and how fast you get. See, Emily,
I knew I was wrong.
947, is you high?
no, I got 963. You did not. Yeah, I did. I was one of them.
I know I get it wrong.
No, 963 is in another.
Oh, then I got 947. I got 947.
I know I got that wrong.
942.
Stevens, go ahead.
Kirsten Stevens.
Yeah. I swear.
I know exactly where it is. Looks like that. Oh, 991!
Alright, we're done.
We're getting closer!
Alright, so let's take a look at it.
Let's go look in the book. Oh, someone look in the book.
Here's where we are. Where's the United States? It's right in here. South America, Africa. Egypt is just near the Red Sea, in between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. It's right there in that region. Australia. That's pretty obvious. Australia is down there. Australia is down there. Right?
I must say, I was probably the closest.
Alright, so what do we already know about the geography of Egypt? I want to stick to just the geography. What does the area look like as in terms of its geography? CJ?
What about a desert?
Desert? Can I tell you, I just have to say this really quick, because I like doing this. The last 2 classes that I had, both groups started with sandy and then went to dry and hot, and it took like 6 different times before we ever got to the word desert. So I like the fact that we started right out with desert. It covers a lot of things. It's desert, right?
It used to be part of a jungle.
Okay.
Look it up.
Formerly jungle life. Cece. What? River. What is it? Does anyone remember the name of the one big river?
Oh, the Nile. No, that's it.
Matt, what is it?
It's the, I just said the Egyptian river.
No. No. It's the Nile River.
What's this?
Matt,
Nile
let's go back to the map.
Nile is in
This is Africa. Right here. This is Africa. Right here.
No.
This is Egypt.
You circled
Right here. Which, if you notice, it's in Africa. You're exactly right. The Nile is in Africa. You are exactly right. It is Africa.
Right.
Africa is a continent, and Egypt is a country. Okay? The Nile River. I'm actually going to stop right there because really this is the biggest thing that there is. The Nile River. That's the biggest thing that there is. You wouldn't have Egypt if it wasn't for the Nile River. If the Nile River didn't run through Egypt, there wouldn't be anything going on. There would be no one would have ever settled there. There's nothing else going on. Everything at the time when Egypt first started, everything depended on the Nile. They need it for everything. When the Nile would overflow, when it would flood, it would run into the floodplains, it would drop silt, and it would create very fertile land to grow crops, and so they could farm, and they could survive. Those crops also brought in different animals from all over the place, so that they could herd animals, they could hunt animals, they could eat, essentially.
Grill 'em up.
Grill them up. So there was, the river does everything. The river helped them transport things back and forth and get back and forth from one place to another. The river was life. Without the river, there's nothing there. There's no reason to settle there. Okay? So, but we know it's a desert. It was, we believe from some of the fossil records and from some of the images that we've seen from satellites in outer space that parts of the area were once jungle-like. Some of the areas along the Nile are still very lush and green. It's pretty flat. There's some hills and a couple mountains. The main pyramids that everybody talks about are on top of what's called the Giza Plateau. It's one of the largest landforms on Earth. And so it's pretty flat at the top of there. But it's not like flat like we think of here in Illinois where there's nothing. You can see for like a billion miles. It's there are some
Dunes.
I can't come up with the right word, but it's not totally flat. So we have a lot of different forms. Yes, ma'am.
When you said that they can tell that it was jungle-like by satellite, but don't they take pictures from now? So how would they tell that it was a
They've
jungle?
actually, because of a lot of the advances in technology of the satellite images, they can actually see in the patterns of where the desert is, they can actually see old riverbeds and where very large rivers used to go. And by knowing that the large rivers used to go in through those areas, if they know that, they can look at what Nile looks like and what other rivers look like in similar areas, and they used to be jungle. Plus, they also have found fossils. So, all right. So we talked about that a little bit. We have a couple pictures of Egypt, of the area around there. We have one of the Great Pyramid. We have one of just some sand dunes. You can see, like, if you look really closely, there's some rocks. You see how it's not just completely flat. It's kind of bumpy and hilly. There are some dunes, a lot of sand dunes. It's not as flat like we think of it here. And then here you have a picture of the Nile. I believe it's the longest river in the world.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I think the Amazon is number 2, and Mississippi's in like the top 5. Something like Yangtze's in there too. The Yangtze, it's in China.
So what?
We'll learn about it later. It's important, very important. But you have along this river, what happens is you see these like little green areas around here. That's the floodplain. That's the area where when the Nile overflows and floods, it floods in those areas, and it drops a lot of nutrients and makes it a really great place to grow crops, to grow just about anything. And then we have this land formation up here. Does anybody know what this is? Anybody know what that is? It's on top of the river? Jordan? This is the Mediterranean Sea, yep. But as the Nile flows into the Mediterranean Sea, it creates a particular type of landform. Does anybody know what it's called? It looks kind of like that thing I drew on the board over there. In fact, that thing over, it is that thing I drew over on the board.
That's why.
Nope, not Bermuda Triangle. That's an area by the island of Bermuda in the Caribbean Sea.
A delta.
A delta! This is the Greek letter delta. The ancient Koine Greek letter delta. And if you look, it sort of forms like a D, right? It kind of looks like,
Oh, what a delta.
it kind of looks like an upside down triangle, right? The reason why it looks upside down, like an upside down triangle, is because the Nile River is one of the few rivers in the world that actually flows south to north. Most rivers either flow east to west or north to south. It's one of the few that actually flows south to north. Very special like that.
Wait,
Yes.
but from the picture, it says it's going from north.
No, it's not. It starts down here and
Oh.
flows everything. Rivers always flow towards a sea or towards an ocean.
Oh, I thought it was.
So it starts down here and it moves this way.
Oh.
Okay. But this delta area is extremely rich in nutrients. A great place to grow things. It's hotbed of civilization, lots of life and things. So, based on what we just talked about and what you already know about Egypt, and the pictures that we looked at, what are some things that would make life easier? What are some things that would make life pretty easy? Goodbye, Mia.
The river,
And why would the river make life easier?
because there's actually a source of water there.
Right. If you think about it, almost every major city in the world is built near or next to or right on top of a river or some type of water source. New York is that way. London is that way, built on the Thames. Rome is built that way. Paris. Chicago, right on the Chicago River. I don't know about Los Angeles.
Yes, it's right on the ocean.
It's right on the ocean, yeah. But almost every major city, the really major cities, are built next to a place where they can easily get fresh water. Because they need fresh water to get there.
Just Kansas City.
Yeah, nobody knows when to settle in Kansas City. Alright, what are some other things? What are some other things that make life easier, other than a good source of water?
You get food, like fish
Food.
or agriculture.
Okay. What else?
There were a lot of resources like gold and diamond and lots.
And not just the big precious metal resources, but there was a lot of stone that they could build things out of. There was sandstone, there's quartz, there's limestone, all kinds of different things that they can build things out of, build structures out of, build civilization out of. Anything else? Anything else that makes life easier? Makes life easier. Okay. Desert defense. One whole side is desert, right? The other side, on the other side, you got like the Red Sea. Very difficult to get in and attack, right? So what are some things that would make life difficult? What are things that would make life hard? Lily.
Well, it's like the sand in general, because they
Desert. Desert makes things hard. Right. What kind of climate does it have? Hot, dry climate. What do you remember there's a word that we use for that? Something that's hot and dry? Arid. It's an arid climate. It's an arid climate. It's not very hospitable. Yeah.
there could be a sandstorm.
Sandstorms. I think everybody's seen the movie The Mummy a few too many times because it's been brought up every class of sandstorms. Matt.
Like, if you live too far away from the Nile and you can't get the water that you need.
Okay. If we went back and looked at that map, there's just the one main river, right? There's not like a whole bunch of different rivers where you could easily access water from a bunch of different places. There's just the one main one. So yeah, you're not going to have a whole lot of sources of water. Spencer. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Humid to say it was arid?
No, humid is different. Arid is hot and dry. Humid is like muggy, like it's like here in the sun. Like I'm feeling right now. Yes.
The rulers, the pharaohs, some of them weren't as good and some of them were better. So their government sort of.
Okay. I think that's the same anywhere, but you always have to deal with good and bad government.
Yeah, like, it makes life difficult there.
That's true. Here's a quick question. Remember I was talking about how with the floodplains, a lot of things can grow and you get a lot of wildlife in. Whenever you get a lot of wildlife in, especially the good kind of wildlife that we like to hunt, what else comes with that type of huntable wildlife? If we like to hunt it, Lily?
Like other animals like the hunt it too, and like,
Can anybody think of an example of a predator that might be living in, Kevin? No? Matt?
river moccasins.
I don't think that counts. But no.
What? They're poisonous.
There are snakes. The Egyptian asp, ASP, is a very poisonous snake. But they're not going to be river moccasins. River moccasins are native to North America. Sean? Egyptian cobra. Way to use something from another class. Good job. If you
Snakes in general.
lots of different snakes, right? Different kinds of snakes. Do you know any other predators that might be there? Matt?
Lizards.
All right. Crocodiles. There are crocodiles. Crocodiles are huge. Crocodiles are huge. There are lions. If you look at in the Egyptian mythology and the Egyptian gods, you see them a lot of times depicted as different types of animals, or in some type of human animal form. And those will take on things like hyenas, jackals, lions, crocodiles.
Like the horse.
There are a lot of hippos. And hippos are actually, do you know more people die from hippos than shark attacks? Yeah, more people die from hippos than shark attacks. So, there are all kinds of predators. And then finally, the last thing, if you are a farmer, and farming, your entire life revolves around farming and your ability to grow crops. And your ability to grow crops is all dependent on whether or not the Nile floods and drops a whole bunch of silt so that you can easily grow things. What happens when the Nile doesn't flood? You don't farm. What do we call it when we have a really dry season for a long time? A drought. Thank you for raising your hand, Matt.
I thought drought was D-R-O-U-T. Like, we didn't care.
I have told you on it multiple times I'm not very good spelling.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Never mind, I remember.
Then why are you a language arts teacher?
Actually, the drought with an A is actually it's when you take a drink of something, a large drink.
Wow.
Drought. Spells an A.
Good, like sauerkraut, like that. Okay.
No one drinks sauerkraut. I don't know what you're
No,
talking
I mean like the
I don't even know
spelling,
what
like
it
an A.
Alright, so we have a couple different things, right? That show the difference of what makes life easier and what would make life more difficult. If you notice, some of them are actually tied together. They go together, right? The Nile, which is a great source of water and it gives you plentiful food, can also bring predators when it doesn't work, when it's not flowing properly, when it's not getting all the water. You can have droughts. The desert, which can provide an excellent defense, can also cause sandstorms. It adds into the arid climate. And when you have a drought, having a desert right next to you is really, really difficult. I don't know, I mean, if you guys know this. Alright, so this is our map of Egypt, right? Or at least it's of the Nile. And we were talking about this earlier. Everybody knows what this is, right? This is the Mediterranean Sea. Can anybody name any other major civilizations that were located in or around the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah. Not the Vikings, although they did make it down there. The Red Sea is right over here. So we got the Red Sea right over here. It's kind of connected.
The Greeks and the Romans.
Greeks and the Romans. There are also the Phoenicians, the Minoans, and Israel, Syria is right over here. That area is right over there. You actually had a lot of different civilizations that were really close by. And in later years, as Egypt grew older and older, you would actually have series after series of people coming in and taking over Egypt and this particular part of the world. Does anybody have any idea why they would want to do that? We talked about the fact they're in the middle of the desert. Why would you want to take this area over?
Water.
There is a lot of water, and water is important. Does anybody know why? Why water is so important? Lily?
You can't survive with water.
You can't survive without water, true. But like this is salt water and that's salt water, so that's not going to help you at all. But there's something else. Transportation. The movement of goods. You can move things very easily through the Nile. And if you notice there's the Suez Canal right here, you can move things really quickly between here and here in that area. It's a very important region. Not to mention the fact that, as Spencer mentioned earlier, there are a lot of natural resources in this area. And there's also a lot of food that was grown there. Rome took over Egypt for one reason and one reason only. They need more food. Their empire had grown too large, it was too hard to feed everybody. They needed to take over a place that had a lot of food and could make a lot of food easily. So instead of continuing to buy it from Egypt like they were, they just took it over. It was easier that way. And cheaper. So, a very highly contested area. A lot of different people invaded Egypt throughout the years. A lot of different people.
This is kind of off topic, but
Alright, any questions on this little bit that we talked about Egypt today? Okay. I'm going to stop here just because I don't want to go any further on our introduction to Egypt. We do have, like I said, tomorrow we're going to be in the lab working. Please come here to class. Come here first, and then I'll take attendance really quickly and go. And we'll go to the lab. And then we'll be in the lab. I'm going to talk about citations and getting citations written and all that stuff taken care of. And then you guys will be free to get to work. How many of you guys are already done? I know a couple of you guys are already done.
So what?
With the project. I do have to, one other thing, remember how I told you I was going to put together a website for the school? Do you guys, Logan,
Miller? Yeah, I know.
No.
Logan's back.
He talked to you.
yeah, he's got one half created already, and I'm stealing it from him. He's giving me the passwords and stuff so I can add it onto my website. It's actually really cool. It's going to be really neat. So we're going to have it up there. We'll have all the help wanted things up there. It'll be, I think it's going to be pretty cool. So hopefully we'll have that up in just a couple of days. I didn't forget, what's Logan's last name? How did I just forget it? Newman, yeah, Newman. Yes, he's been working on the site. He did it, it was very cute site. It's actually pretty cool. Alright, any other questions? Alright.
Oh yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I just have an off-topic question.
Oh yeah, ask your off-topic question.
Did America invade Syria?
Did we?
Yeah.
No. Not that, no, we talked about